My memory of Randy, my first memory of Randy, I've lived here for about 15 years and got involved in the car club in Beaufort. And I remember Randy as one of the nicest, kindest people that I had ever met, and was just so welcoming. It just made me feel really welcomed. And I remember going home and saying, you know, those guys I want to hang out with. Those are good guys. So that's my memories of Randy. He never a cross word, and just a great guy, just a nice person. Person.
Randy was instrumental in helping us get R&R racing started. Probably a day when you were looking at the pictures, you saw Randy in a green t-shirt that said R&R Racing on it. Well, he was instrumental in helping us build the first car, and instrumental actually in financially supporting the race team for a number of races after that. I can remember one day I took Randy down to Savannah in the Buick. He wanted me to drive him down to Savannah. I had learned how to drive in a 1968 Buick when I was 15 years old, so it was a chance for me to relive my childhood as I took Randy down to Savannah for a car show. We did that several times, and I really thoroughly enjoyed Randy's company. He was one of the most knowledgeable people about cars and about life in general that I've ever known.
Okay, I just got a little thing, funny thing about Randy. I was a club president some years ago. This was, well, when Randy first joined the club, actually. And he was the first one to coin the phrase cruise in and cruise out. And our cruise out would be, okay, we're going to go somewhere in a club. So if I was the president, I'm thinking, okay, I'm about to say where I'd like to cruise to, but it might be a little controversial. And I said, okay, we're going to cruise to Hooters in Savannah. Randy's the first one to jump up and acknowledge that, yes, definitely we're going to cruise to Hooters. And we've done that twice since, and Randy loved Hooters as a family restaurant, as a big cold one. But that's probably the best memory about Randy.
Hey, I just wanted to say that Randy was one of the most generous people that my wife and I got the chance to know. He taught us so much about life, about cars. He was always encouraging us to do something new. I had just put these new headlights in right here that are Bluetooth controlled so that I could show him that I was learning. So I just want to show you. I wanted to be able to show him, but I'll show you now that he believed in us and we learned so much from him, and we're going to miss him. And just thank you everybody for your support during this time.
Hi, my name's Tom Thompson. It's my 71 Super Beetle. Didn't have an opportunity to know Randy well. I didn't join the club until 2014, but I remember used to enjoy talking with him when we would meet Friday nights at the Cave, and great guy. In fact, I just found out he was also in the racing. I've been racing for a long time. I didn't even know that about Randy. So I learned some new experiences by coming here about the man. Great man.
Hi, my name is Teresa Pulliam, and I've got two classic cars, the 62 Rambler and the 66 Ford Custom 500. I remember the first time I brought the Rambler to a meeting. I had just bought it 10 years ago, and the meeting was in a restaurant, so nobody had seen it when I pulled up. But when I started talking about it, Randy was the only person who went out in the parking lot to see the car, and the main thing he was interested in was, did it have overdrive? And I said, no, it doesn't have overdrive. And he said, well, you know, they came with it. And I said, I know it came with it, but mine doesn't have it. So when you're driving in third gear on the highway, it almost seems like you're abusing it. But he was really interested in the overdrive. And then with the 66 Ford, we went over to a cruise in on Hilton Head one night, and he rode over there with a member who had a pickup truck with a convertible top. And I think he pretty much got blown away on the going over there. So he asked me if he could ride with me back to Beaufort that night in a 66 Ford. It's a four-door sedan. And we had a good conversation that night. He was telling me things about my car that I didn't even know. But Randy was just always a great guy, always very friendly. Just couldn't have asked for a better friend.
I've been in the club for 22 years. I've known Randy 22 years. Did a lot of events together. And we're really going to miss him. In fact, I believe I'm the person who nicknamed him Yoda because of his knowledge of cars. I just remember there wasn't anything that Randy couldn't remember about a vehicle. So I'm going to miss him. He was a fabulous guy, a real giving person. God bless him.
He and a fellow named Dave Carroll were buddies, and they get into great conversations about things that most of us didn't remember or ever know. But they were two of them were great twosome, and they had more stories and this, that, and the other thing. Both of them were great guys. Unfortunately, Dave died on the golf course not long after moving out of Utah. And Randy was here, pretty well planted for many years. But he was a super guy, and everything you heard today was exactly Randy. He knew, he like, well, remember when that bumper didn't have those kind of things. Remember when they, but and he was there. He knew what was going on. It was great to see. An awful lot of people fade away into the closet almost, thinking, he wasn't as active at that time as he had been previously, obviously. But good guy, very good. This was really nice today. I've never been to one like this. It's interesting. I was thinking, now what will happen here today? But it was a very, very pleasant and nice thing to do. It really was.
Randy will be very, very much missed amongst the car club. Known him for about 10 years, and always a pleasure to meet with him. And one of the funniest things that ever happened to me with him is I bought a really nice Ford Galaxy, and we're looking at it cruising one night. He's like, "Why'd they paint everything except for under the hood?" And that was about the most he could say about it. But he is going to be missed around here, and he's just very, very few of them left.
Randy was one of the kindest people I first met when I joined the car club. And he was a phenomenal person. He helped me gather things like screws and bolts, and he never had an unkind word to say to anybody. And I always look forward to seeing him sitting in his high chair, like the one that's sitting over there. He sat on it like he was king of the club, so in which he was. So it was just a wonderful person, and I will remember him for the rest of my life. And it's a sad day, and the best to him and his family. Godspeed, Randy.
I know Randy from the club, and the thing about Randy, he was one of the friendliest people I met. Him and Dave Carroll, they used to kind of hang out together, and every time I go to the cave for one of our functions, they'd always seek me out and say hello and see what's up. So I just think he's a great guy. We all miss him.
I don't know the exact date when I met Randy. It's been quite a while. I'd say 15 years at least. Good guy. Do anything for you. The story I have with Randy, somebody told me he had a 4-speed transmission, and I was looking to put a 4-speed in this car. And I went up to his house one day, pulled up to his shed. He goes, "Hi." I said, "Hello." He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm here for that transmission." He goes, "What transmission?" I said, "The 4-speed you've got." He goes, "You know what? If you can get it out of the shed, you can have it." So I walked into his shed, picked it up, walked out with it in my hand. And he laughed. I put it in the trunk of the car. He goes, "Do me a favor. If you ever get rid of the transmission, just bring it back." I said, "Okay, that's a promise." But that's the kind of guy, Randy was. Never asked for a penny for it. I offered money for it. He wouldn't take it. He just said, "When you're done with it, give it back." I said, "I will." Unfortunately, he's in a better place now, and we'll miss him. But that's, there's many more stories, but that's the one that sticks out in my mind.
Bill Kershine, been in the car club here for right at 20 years. Known Randy since I've been in the automobile parts business. I'm the retired manager of O'Reilly Auto Parts. I've been keeping Randy and all his vehicles in parts since he's been down here in the Beaufort area. Good-hearted man. Couldn't ask for a nicer person. Always fair. Treated everybody like they were family.
My name is Lottie Parker, and I've been in the car club since shortly after it started. My husband and my son was one of the original members of the car club. And I've known Randy so long, I don't remember when I met him. But I will always remember him as a super respectful person. Every time he saw me, it was, "How are you, Miss Lottie?" And he didn't ask as if it was just something he was saying. It was like he was really concerned about you. And I guess when I think about a lot of the things that we did as a car club, I remember going to Hooters. It was someplace that generally we didn't go to Hooters very much, but Randy loved Hooters. So I remember a lot of cruise ins with Randy. But I guess most recently, I would see him at the Bilo right here in Shell Point. And I always thought, wonder why Randy shops there. But I would see him there several times. Sometimes I'd see the toaster in the parking lot, so then I knew to look for him inside because he would be there. But I also remember going to visit him when he moved into Springer. Someone told me that he was there, and when I went to visit him, it was the day before he got his permanent room. And we spent time just sitting and talking. And he was that kind of person that you could really spend time with and enjoy. And he's a person that I will always remember. And our car club won't be the same without him. But we'll move on and hopefully keep the same spirit that he had.
I met Randy 11 years ago. That's because I remember I got this car 10 years ago, and that's when my dad said I was responsible enough. That's when I turned 40. And I remember drinking beer, watching the Steelers game over there at the sports bar next to the movie theater, which is now torn down. And there was a guy there with a Steelers shirt on and a Classic Car Club, the Buford thing, and I didn't have this yet. I was just fixing to get it. And I went up there and talked to him about the Classic Car Club, and you know Randy. He just took over the conversation, welcomed me into the Classic Car Club. Next thing I know, I'm getting a car and I'm going to meetings. Next thing I know, he's telling me how to work on it. Next thing I know, it's drivable again. Next thing I know, I'm watching Pittsburgh Steelers games for, I think, 7 years before it all got bad for him. And we used to sit there and watch games. He'd scream at the TV and drink his beer. And just a real good guy, and I'm going to miss him a lot.
Randy and I were fairly close. My best memories of him started out, I guess, about 8 or 10 years ago. We would make weekly trips to Harbor Freight and buy tools. We'd always stop afterwards, have a cold beer, and then go to Hooters to eat wings, allegedly. And finally, we filled up our garage with tools. And, he went to Spring on his trip ceased, but he was a wonderful, wonderful person. Grand person. That's about all I got.
I was looking at buying of all things, a pipe organ, and happened to mention to somebody else in the club about it. I said, Randy's an expert on those. So I went to see Randy and talk about it. Well, he talked me out of getting involved with it, but we found somebody that needed it and wanted it. So we saved it from the scrap heap. And that's one story of many. But Randy was one of a kind, and we're all better off for knowing him.
Randy was my introduction to the Buford Car Club. There were some guys hanging out down the street from my house, and it turned out to be Dr. Salzer. And I saw a bunch of guys hanging out in the garage, and there were about 4 of them. Dr. Salzer has a bunch of really neat cars. And so I walked up and I introduced myself, and Randy just went ahead and it gave me a detailed analysis of every car in Dr. Salzer's garage, the engine, the transmission, how many were produced, and on and on and on and on. So my son and I, we then decided to nickname him the Encyclopedia. So from then on, whenever we had a question, we went and saw Randy. So he's a great guy, and without him, I wouldn't probably know all the guys in the car club and be involved with it. So pretty super. We'll miss him.
Randy, we're going to miss you. Randy squeezed into this car once. I had to take him somewhere. No one else was available. And he squeezed in there, and he was the only one of all the people that have ever ridden in this car, the only one to notice that I had a short shifter in there. Nobody before or since had ever noticed that. So nice going, Randy.
I used to be a secretary for the car club, and this was when we still mailed notes out, and he was very specific, and I never could understand why until now. He was a teacher, so all the notes had to be perfect, vernacular had to be perfect, and then the big thing was I had to lick every stamp, I had to fold every envelope into the envelope, and then I had to mail them. Now you just do an email and everything comes in. Anyway, Rand and I had some wonderful times. He was a sweetheart. We'll miss him. Miss him.